Okay. Now, when we are talking of mean, mostly what comes into our mind is a various type. It's a type of mean, right? That we mostly do it. Because as we are here, we tell you to compute the mean of a certain data set. All that we do is to add all the figures, then we divide by the number of figures that we added. All right, we divide by the number of figures that we added. Now, when calculating mean, we can either compute a sample mean or a population mean. All right. So when we talk of a population can be, let's say, a group of people, and a sample will be a subset of that group of people. All right. Or let's say a portion of that group of people that we've taken out, they represent a sample. Right. Now, the population mean is the mean of the entire data, and the sample mean is a mean of a subset of the entire data, just like I mentioned. So if we take, let's say, we take a portion from the population, it becomes a sample. And if you compute a mean for that portion that we took out, we are looking for the sample mean. Right. Now, when it comes to mean, there are other types of mean that we can also look at or we can consider. We can look at the arithmetic mean, the geometric mean, and the harmonic mean. Now, when it comes to the arithmetic mean, that is what is mostly known or what is mostly used. All right, because when we are talking of mean, it means we are talking of the arithmetic mean. Right. Now, when we talk of the arithmetic mean, it is the most widely used measure of central tendency. All right, so take note. The arithmetic mean is a widely used measure of central tendency. So for an ungrouped data, all right, for an ungrouped data, it is simply found by adding all the values and dividing it by the sum of the numbers, or the sum by the number of the values. So let's say we have 10, 20, 15. We take all those numbers, then we divide by, let's say, we divide by, so let's say if we have 1, then we have, let's say, 2, then we have 5. All right. So for an ungrouped data, let's say we have 1, we have 2, we have 5. Okay. So let's say we have this ungroup data over here. Sorry. So let's say we have this ungroup data over here. Alright. And we are asked to compute the mean. What comes into our mind is the arithmetic mean, because we add the three figures, then we divide by the values, the number of values. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we divide by 3, which is going to give us 8 over 3. Alright. So 8 over 3. Alright. So this is the arithmetic mean. Okay. Alright. So let's move on. Alright. So for an ungroup data, alright, for an ungroup data, this is how it is. So for an ungroup data, so we take the summation of the ungroup data, summation of every value in it, then we divide by the total number over there. Alright. Now for a grouped data, alright, for a group data, that's where, I don't know if we are familiar with this formula. Alright, sigma fx over sigma f. Alright, so where f represents the frequency and x represents, let's say, the numbers or the values. Alright, so we will go straight and look at our first example. Alright, so 7 directors of Anderson Associates had to decide how much of their annual profit to retain for future growth. Each voted to retain 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, 14,000, 5,000, 10,000, and 20,000. Calculate the mean. Alright, so the mean here that we are talking about is the arithmetic mean. Alright, the arithmetic mean. So as you can see, right, just like the illustration we did, we take the value. So we take 10,000 plus 12,000 plus 15,000 plus 14,000 plus 25,000 plus 10,000 plus 10,000 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's what has been done over here to give us this 15,142. Right, so to be sure of it, we can take these values to Excel and also compute the mean over here. Alright. Okay, so let me just delete. Now, for an ungrouped data, going by the formula that we learned over here, we can just add everything. Alright, so I can just compute the total, all equal to, that's 106,000, and I'll divide by 7. All right, I'll divide by 7. So that will be, let's say, equal to the total divided by 7, giving me 15,142.86. But if we are leveraging on Excel to do this, what we are going to do is that we use the average function, all right, to get the arithmetic mean. So as stated over here, we use the average function. So with that, we just go ahead equal to average. So average. So as you can see over here, so it returns the average, the arithmetic mean of its argument, which can be numbers or names, array or references that contains numbers. Then we select the whole range. All right. So just you can see over here, the average function gives us the exact figure. So in Excel, we don't have to worry our head by going through this formula over here. All right, this formula over here. We just leverage on the average function to compute our arithmetic mean. All right. So that's how we go about it. So this is an on-group data. All right, this is an on-group data. Okay. So let's move on with our lesson. So weighted mean. All right, weighted mean. So with the arithmetic mean, what I recommend is that we can also go ahead, get some examples, all right, and work around it. But this is the simplest mean that we can deal with, comparing it to the other ones like the geometric mean and the harmonic mean. Okay. So with the weighted mean, all right. So sometimes though the average is 15,142.8 as we get, it might not be the appropriate since the directors might not have equal number of shares. Right. In that case, then we compute the various weights of their shareholdings and then find the weighted mean. So what this is trying to say is that now over here we are talking about directors who are, let's say, invested in the business or invested in the company. Now based on the profits that they decided to retain, we are not forgetting the fact that all these investors, let's say, has a certain number of shareholdings in the company. All right. So although the arithmetic, or let's say the average profit everyone is retaining is 15,142.6, it cannot be applied to everyone. All right. So this is average of the group, but we can go ahead and calculate the actual mean by bringing in or factoring the shareholdings that they hold in that company. All right. So over here we have the weighted mean function. All right. We have the weighted mean function, and we have it over here. So we will go ahead and use Excel I'll use Excel to explain what is happening over here to us. So I have, all right. So my weighted average is here. All right. So I have this over here. Oh, let me see. Kindly hold on. Let me check the. Okay. Okay. So I have this over here. So retention shareholders and weight. All right. So I have it over here. So that's my illustration two over here. All right. So we have the directors. So we have director BB. So I'm just giving them names to make it very simple. So AA, BB, CC, DD, FF, and R. So the first director is retaining 10,000. The other 12,000, just like it was stated in the on group data. Okay. Then we have their shareholdings over here. So with the help of the shareholdings, we compute the total shareholdings that are in the company. Then based on that, we can go ahead and compute the weight. All right, that's the T. Now, in computing the weight, what we are going to do is that you take the shareholdings of, let's say, director AA, then we divide by the total number of shares in the company. All right, so the total number of shares outstanding in the company. All right, so in doing that, we select so equal to this over here. All right, then we divide by the total over here. All right, so then we hit F4 to apply absolute reference. All right, so this is the weight of director AA. Then we can drag down. All right, so we have the various weights of each director over here. All right, now we can go ahead and also compute the weighted average retention. All right, the weighted let's say retention average or weighted average retention, and that we can do that by multiplying the weight, all right, by the number of let's say the profit that they are retaining, right? By the profit that they are retaining. So with that, we just go ahead. So the profit, so equal to the profit multiplied by the weight. All right. Then we can drag through. Then we can compute the total out equal to. All right. So now we have the total weighted average retention over here, and we have the retention also over here. So if you look at the formula over here, all right. So we are looking at the summation of, so the mean, the weighted mean is equal to the summation of, let me zoom in. We are looking at the summation of the weight multiplied by, let's say, so in this instance, that's the profit that they retain, all right, the profit that they retain divided by summation of the weight, all right, divided by summation of the weight. Okay, so let's go back to our Excel. So to compute our weighted average, we know that this will be the summation of the weighted average. Then we also find the summation of the weights. So the summation of the weights, I'll add everything out equal to, that gives me 1. Alright, so to be able to get the weighted average retention or the weighted average, alright, or the weighted mean, the weighted mean will be equal to this, so equal to this divided by this. Alright, alright. So now my weighted mean is 19,487.50. So this is after incorporating the shareholdings that each director has in the said company. Alright. So this is how you can also make these computations in Excel, as simple as that. Alright. So we have a question over here that we will just try our hands on. So maybe from now you can just pause the video, try your hands on it. Maybe whether you are calculating it by hand or using Excel. So the income of workers employed by AMA, Village Accra Metropolitan Assembly, was recorded as 170, 263, 50, 520, and 7,500. The number of workers are this respectively. The chief accountant reports that the weighted average income is this. Compute to show whether it is true or not. Alright, so let me get rid of this. Alright, so now we have the various incomes as stated in the question over here. So that's, let's say, the illustration 3. Alright, so we have the income stated over here. Then I've given, so let's say if we take AMA, we have various districts, or let's say various locations in AMA. So let's say we have district A, district B, district C, district D, and district E. Now in district A, we have the income is 170. Alright, so like that as stated in the question. Now we'll go ahead and compute the weight. Now to compute the weight, we know that we have to find the total number of workers. Alright, so the total number of workers all equal to, so that's 150. Then to compute the weight, we know that the weight of, let's say, district A will be the total number of workers in district A divided by the total workers in AMA. Alright, in AMA. So that's going to give me equal to this divided by the total. And I'll hit F4 for absolute reference now, and I hit enter. So I've gotten the weight over here, and I can scroll down. Alright, so I've gotten the various weights for each district. Alright, I can go ahead and compute the weighted average income. And so the weighted average income, that's going to be equal to the weight multiplied by the income, or the respective income. Then I can also drag that down. Then I can go ahead and compute the total weighted average income. That's it over here. Alright, the total weighted average. Let me see. Okay. Now over here I can go ahead and compute my weighted what do you call it? My weighted mean. Alright. So we have the formula over here. So the weighted mean over here is this divided by this. Alright, so this divided by this. So now we have to compute the weighted average. So with the weighted average, that's going to give us, so our weighted average, it's missing out. Alright, so our weighted average, so that's going to be equal to the weighted average of income, or the summation, divided by the summation of the weight. Alright, so the weighted average income, let me see. Alright, so the weighted average income is 1,354. So the question is asking us, the chief accountant reported that the weighted average income is 454.54. Compute to show whether this is correct or not. So we can see that based on our computation, we can conclude that the weighted average income reported by the chief accountant wasn't true. Alright, it wasn't true. Now with this, so let's compute the average. Let's compute the arithmetic mean and have a look. So let's say the arithmetic mean. So we have to use the average function. So we are dealing with the income over here. Alright, so you can see the arithmetic mean that we are even getting. Alright, so with the arithmetic mean, you use the average function, and with the weighted mean, you use the formula as stated in the question, in the document over here. Alright,